I am Captain Logan, and this is day 265 of Spawn Year. I may be fully, unwaveringly committed to completing every blasted last one of these accursed entries, but make no mistake, the number 365 is etched like an eternally fresh tattoo on the outermost layer of my subconscious mind. Not a day goes by that I don't imagine my agonizingly long-awaited homecoming, my son's laughter, my wife's smile, Chipotle burritos, and I'm envisioning that perfect heavenly moment today more than ever before, because today marks the first of my final 100 days as this infernal, highly caffeinated monstrosity in this bizarre place. As I wrote the heading for today's entry, I managed the literary equivalent of a Freudian slip. I had to cross out a 3 and replace it with a 2. When this year is finally passed into memory, I believe the number 365 will forever hold special meaning for me. I have never seriously entertained the notion of getting ink done, as the offspring sang, but when I'm wearing my own skin again, perhaps a small, actual tattoo commemorating my triumph over my own personal hell would be appropriate. It might be that I'll welcome the sharp sting of a needle across my arm or shoulder just to fully appreciate my reacquaintance with my own skin again. But as wont as I am to do it, now is not the time for vivid daydreaming. Before I can bask in glorious daylight and marvel at the vastness of the wondrous world I've been cut off from in my alley that loops itself when I walk too far in one direction, I must focus on the ever-daunting task ahead, clinging to my deep hope that I will never find myself scrawling the number 366 into one of these terrible pads of paper. So now I turn my concentration back to Covenant, a man also on an intense and treacherous journey home, as uncertain as to what he may find there as I sometimes can't help being myself. Now that the druids have stolen his necroplasm and powers from him, he's having to reacclimate himself with the frailties and immense limitations of mortality. A normal man just can't walk a gazillion miles in the forest without a lot of backache and neck strain. Covenant has to know his people aren't going to take him back with open arms just because he's powerless and theoretically free from hell's hold over him, since they think it's him who massacred most of them, especially because he's retained his hideous Crypt Keeper face. I can totally understand his desire to pick up the pieces from his previous life and now to repair the damage he caused in his second, because he knows he was foolish and selfish for believing he could go right back where he left off and ignore the deal he made with a super powerful and morbidly obese hell monster. Since his powers are gone and the rules seem to have changed, he thinks he can resolve things at home without fear of more reprisal from hell. He owes it to his former subjects because even though he can't remember slaughtering everyone himself, it is his fault. He's pretty sure that the massacre happened. I like that Covenant remains the proactive spawn of action who's very quick to admit when he's wrong. On the other hand, I can't fathom how he thinks this abrupt reunion so soon after the travesty is going to go down. Surely, looking the way he does, Covenant doesn't think he can reason with his former compatriots. He's also injured, aching, likely starving, and no longer has the mega strength to heave that behemoth of an axe they built for him, so he has no way to protect himself. If he made it back in his condition, I'm pretty sure he'd be torn apart and left in the forest for dead. Especially by these apparently simple-minded yahoos with no imagination. We're told in narration that nobody in the village saw who performed the killings, but everybody with the exception of maybe one little kid who gets all excited to see Covenant alive at the end just assume Covenant did it because he's the only one of them physically capable of it. Man, for a community that was supposedly loyal to their ruler, these guys turn fast. Apparently these guys were terrified of Covenant the whole time and just waiting to be mutilated by him. But Covenant doesn't even make it to his old stomping grounds of Rael before he's attacked by a band of hunters, thieves, congressmen, I don't know, who peg him for the butcher of Rael. It's the visage of death, right? Stupid visage of death, always giving us spawns away. Covenant doesn't stand a chance against them. For presumably mystical reasons that aren't revealed here, every time one of them merely touches Spawn, he recoils in agonizing pain. After they've beaten him to a bloody pulp, their leader decides Covenant would probably suffer more alive than dead, and he's left to his own devices. More, I think, because Niles couldn't think of any other way to let Covenant survive than because it really makes more sense that guy would leave him there instead of enjoying the satisfaction of taking out a mass murderer. But who knows? I don't have the slightest clue who these men are or what they're doing there. And then I have to turn the book sideways so I can see a vertical splash page of 1 trillion necroplasmic hellworms infesting Covenant. Then he's right outside Rael, a kid's happy to see him, and he asks for help, to be continued. Ever since Holguin gave up the reins to Steve Niles, this book has been making the unsettling descent toward the familiar, cryptic, confusing storytelling of the main book. More unintelligible mythos than believable character progression. But this issue is more readable and better paced than the previous two, and perhaps some of Hell's doings, now that Hell is directly responding to the Druids meddling in their affairs, will shed some light on how Hell and Heaven operate in this world. This series has been far more consistent with the canon of the main book than Curse was. And there's an undercurrent about the old gods fighting for their place in the world as Gareth and his followers rebel against the Catholic Church. I like the idea of real historical wars paralleling and intersecting with the larger cosmic war Spawn has always been about, and I'm hoping these developments will add some credibility to the ever-vague green world and the notion that every conceived mythological pantheon of gods actually exists here in one form or another. Well, one more down, pass it around, 99 entries of Spawn here on the wall. You know, that's what I could really use right now. A stiff drink. And I don't mean Mountain Dew. Signed, Captain Logan.